um, I was reminded by God and my own heart and soul, because sometimes, even though I put up qualifiers in the very beginning about qualifiers and givens in the sense that if I'm in an audience, like a teacher in a classroom, right? And we're all just meeting each other for the very first time, right? And I want to get a feel for who the students are that are in our classroom. Okay. So I'll say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Um, each student in the classroom can get up and introduce themselves to me, a teacher, if you will, another student, and all the other students that are in the classroom. Introduce yourselves. Okay. And take the time, relax. There is no time limit on this. Okay. And just share what you feel like sharing about who it is that you are, what is important to you, the purpose for which you're here, and feel free to share who it is that you are, right? And then get a feel for everybody that's in the class, so people get an idea on the energy that's in the room, right? Experiencing the energy that's in the room and the direction that we all want to go in together. And say, hey, listen, we're all students together. I may be a teacher, but listen, I am what love is. So whatever we're going to do out of love for each other, right? So that we all sort of go in a direction that we all want to go in, but each one of us all have our own free will to do whatever we want to do, right? So you can imagine how 30 students in a classroom would be like that. Oh, I can do whatever I want in my classroom. Well, just tell me what you feel like you need. You want some coloring pens? Would you like a compass? Would you like a drafting table? What would you like at your disposal that I can provide for you, that you have a passion for, that excites you, lights you on fire to create things? What would you need? Well, I've already got a built-in projector. Oh, you do? Yeah, okay. Well, then share your stories of all the places that you've been that's held within your memory, that we can all get to know you better. And then maybe you can share with us how do you like to use your own projector about the worlds that are different that you'd love to live in. Stuff like that. And so I'm reminded sometimes about my own reaction states to input, which is signal input. So obviously when I'm using this phone and I'm experiencing the input, which is what's in the mirror, right? Which is the mirror, which is a black mirror, which is a finite light magnet, which is the AI, which is the phone. So when I see something come up on the phone, no matter who it comes from, okay, I'm very sensitive, particularly it's folks that I know that putting stuff up on my Facebook timeline, okay? And so I'm naturally going to translate it the way that I translate it, no matter what it is, which is always going to be based on what? What I know that I am versus what they are, which is based on what they experience versus what I experience. So I don't experience what they experience. And I don't have any memory of experiencing what they experience. Because I am what love is, it goes on forever. So now you know the difference between who they are and what I am. Right? Just because I didn't experience it just means I'm different. I experience different things. So I have my history of what I share and experience. And then there's everybody else that has their story of what's held in their memory, what they share. Right? But I don't allow myself to be held captive by something that I haven't experienced that they've experienced on whether it's true or not. Because you're a storyteller. Right? And so when you think about energy in the universe that is conscious and aware of itself as consciousness energy as a unit of energy, then it may be that what you say that you've experienced is what you've experienced. I don't have any reason to believe that you're lying to me, but just because it means that you've experienced it doesn't mean I'm held captive by what you've experienced because I've never experienced it. So that's the difference between direct evidence or direct experience and an indirect experience. Because it may be, because I mentioned this to Bill O'Reilly yesterday, because he was talking about, we used to use an old term when we were growing up as children about hot air. You know what hot air is, right? He's just full of hot air. Spirit in the air, in the gas, hydrogen, right? Expansion of consciousness, boy, you're running hot air, all right. But you can see how that was used, okay? when he was talking about how nobody's written more books about history than he has. So I put a comment up there and I said, well, whose history is it? I could, in other words, he wrote a book about the Nazis. He wrote a book about Lincoln. He's written a lot of books, historical books. So I put up there, I said, you know what a holographic insert is, right? That can alter history. So I said, you have no way to know that the history that you wrote, there are other timelines that exist. There's a timeline that exists where the Nazis won World War II, which meant that Berlin did not get taken out the way that it did by the version of history that was written, that I experienced through the books that were presented to me using my consciousness to hold that particular timeline of how that timeline was introduced into my memory of what they say happened. See, in other words, I believe them. I didn't have any reason to believe that they would lie to me because my father fought during World War II, right? So here as a little kid, I'm being shown all these videos of showing me Eisenhower, SHAPE, which is Supreme Allied Headquarters, right? Where you have the British, the Canadians, the French, Australians and Americans that were all going to war against Hitler, right? The Nazi, the Axis powers, which would have been the Japanese Empire, the Rising Sun, right? And who they were in cahoots with, and particularly on a global war machine board game, using finite light artificial intelligence, beast technology system, right? Between seated race lines of communication that are at war with each other, right? In their own mirror, and why we're all here, right? And then so I mentioned this to him, to Bill O'Reilly, that, hey, listen, that might be the history that is held in your memory because you went and go research what has been held in records. But I said, it's easy to alter records. I've been present when people have done that. You know what a shredder is, right? You know how a shell game works between corporations. I know folks that have had things that are held on their criminal record that have been removed by folks because they have access to the screens. They have access to DARPANET. So they can go in there and just remove it because they have access to the key codes and the access codes to remove the information from the system. That means that what was once there and experienced by that particular being is gone. Now there isn't a record of it. So there are others, if they run a record check, which is an historical record check, that record in history does not exist anymore on that timeline. So in other words, that information could be held in a memory bank somewhere that you once had access to. And now you were running that in memory. Now you're not running it in memory anymore because it's gone. And how that relates to Future Proofs Past, Back to the Future. Okay? Kim Gilgillian made a very good reference to that, about how planning futures 5 million years ahead of time. Running on what? Finite light. When there is no time. In other words, there is no future. There is no past. There's only right now, which is the completion of a magnetic circuit. That's called a felt moment, which is a feeling. So my feelings are very sensitive. So I'm very sensitive on how I react to input, which is what I experience visually in my mirror, and how I'm going to react to that input, which is that visual information. How do I translate that visual information, particularly when I've not experienced what they say they've experienced and whether that's true or not? It might be true for you, but it's not true for me because I've never experienced that. So this is sort of how I set up what I'm going to do next, because I put the last video that I did first before this one, but I thought it was probably a good idea to put this one up first before I put the next one up. Okay? So that folks that happen to experience what I'm sharing visually in my mirror with other mirrors, they get sort of a feel of how it works with how I experience what it is that I am in energy, which is what love is that goes on forever, gifting electrons, and how others present who they are with their mirror with us and the difference thereof. Right? So we're all learning through each other how we all experience being connected with each other, the direction that we're all going in together in this universe, right? Ultimately, that's what it is, being students. We're learning through each other, right? Where are we all going? Right? As Terence McKenna would say, the universe is getting its act together. Together, pulling everything in together to experience being one. We're all in love with each other because we're experiencing being one with each other, because we're experiencing the eternal one true God of eternal unconditional love, right? That's time wave zero. That's called no resistance to experience eternal unconditional love through our heart and our soul that we share with others. Have a great day.